Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Dialogues from the President's Corner, featuring Dr. Zarda, President of GC, as well as our special guest today, Shana Plasters, Dean of the Students. How are you guys both doing today?
Doing great. And this is homecoming weekend, big weekend coming up, and I had a lot of people coming back to campus, so it feels good.
Yes, it's always one of my favorite weeks on campus. So I'm looking forward to seeing everyone.
Yeah, it's going to be a great weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun just reconnecting with everyone and all the events too, the games, ceremony. So as we've settled into the fall semester, we wanted to talk with Shana about her department and its role here on campus. So Shana, you're front facing to like a lot of students, but a lot of people maybe not know about your background. So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is my 9th academic year at Greensboro College and my 30th academic year in higher education. So I've been doing this a long time. I tell folks I went to college and moved into my residence hall room in 1989, and I've just never left school. But no, I've made a career out of this. The majority of my life has been working with college students, and I've been at big institutions and small institutions, public, private. And one of the things I just really appreciate about Greensboro College is how focused we really are on the student experience, how many of us get to touch students in so many different capacities. And it really feels like a family here.
So those unfamiliar with student development, just because like in terms of like financial aid and athletics, people like kind of get a general understanding about those. So like, what is the mission and goal of student development? And like, what does the day-to-day look like?
Yes. Well, Dr. Zarda may have a different mission and goal for us. But I would say our role and all of our departments see our role as helping students become autonomous, well-adjusted students who are productive members of our community and our society at large.
I know within student development, there were a lot of resources for students. So Dr. Zarda, do you want to talk a little bit about that? And Shana, you feel free to add in too.
Yeah, I'm sure Shana can also add the breadth of what we do at Greensboro College, which is actually pretty ambitious for a college our size. Being a small private liberal arts college. I've been at this a long time, maybe even a decade or more longer than Shannon. So I've seen a lot of changes. And it really occurred to me recently that I've seen 3 major developments in my time in this business that have affected student development. And you could argue there's many more, but I'll put them in 3 buckets. The first is amenities. Now, Greensboro College never got caught up in what people call the amenities race, where many colleges, universities, especially the larger ones, invested huge amounts of capital in all kinds of interesting things, like lazy rivers and climbing walls and steakhouses and ice cream trucks and a lot of others. So that's one. And we don't do that here. It's not who we are. And to some degree, we don't need to because we're in downtown Greensboro. And that's right at your doorstep. The second area bucket, whatever you want to call it, is athletics. Athletics has become so much more important at the college level. And again, we're not Division I. We have to remind people of that all the time. We're not what you see on TV. We're not what you read about where our athletes are being paid millions of dollars. Our students are student athletes, but athletics has become so much more prevalent in our society. There was a time when 4-H, Boys and Girls Clubs, the church choir was a lot of what you did. And realistically, today our children and grandchildren skew to athletics. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that's a reality. And the third, and probably the biggest, is mobile devices, cell phones, and laptops. Where, and again, it was a while ago, but when I wanted to interact with my classmates, I interacted with them. I didn't interact with my screen. So I would say in my time in higher ed, those are the 3 big developments in student development.
So Shana, on a day-to-day basis, what does the look like?
Yeah. And so this is why I love what I do. So no day is going to be the same twice. And I really have an opportunity to touch everything from a 10,000 foot view to moving tables at a picnic. And so, some of the work that I do is really looking at some of these trends and how are we addressing this. I just came from a conversation with our director of counseling where we were talking about some of the new research out of this generation and some of how social media and some of these electronics have shaped those student pieces. I will meet with students today. I'll have one-on-one conversations with students, some who just want to chat and others who are looking for help and resources. And then obviously just the other day when we were able to have our first campus picnic outside, I got to go in and just sit down and chat with the students and hear about how basketball workouts were going and what people were looking forward to in the coming weeks. So a variety of different things happen in my world each day.
Oh, that's great to hear. I guess a more broad question. In terms of student development here at GC, is there like a specific like theory or approach that we utilize with students?
So I think I would go back to that mission of developing an autonomous, well-adjusted individual. And so that's really our focus, and no matter what department. So in health and counseling, that may play out as learning to manage your own healthcare, learning to seek out appropriate resources. Within a student activities or a religious life realm, it may be how are we connecting to a bigger picture? How are we being part of a community in that? And so I think we go back to that, regardless of the department, is helping students. You know, this is a transition period for many of our traditional age students from high school to sort of living independently. And so we want to challenge them to develop those skills while we're still providing a level of support for them as they're learning some of these new strategies and approaches to life.
Since it's homecoming weekend, we're still relatively early in the semester. Do you want to talk about, since you interact with students on a day-to-day basis, how does the general sense vibe feel like, I guess, post-pandemic, it seems?
Yeah, I would say, at least for me, I don't know how you feel, Dr. Zarda, this fall perhaps has felt like the most normal post-COVID. 20 and the fall of 20 and 21, we were certainly in the thick of things. Even last year, I think people were sort of unsure of what it might look like. But there's a general excitement. You know, we have more students on campus. You walk outside and there's almost always something happening on the field. Our theater students are highly engaged with their plays and programs. And, just last week, we opened our first theater production. And so I think students are excited. We're seeing student turnout at different events regularly on campus. So I think they're looking for ways to get out and engage with their peers.
And if I could add to what Shannon just said, COVID is still with us. We all know that. And we are still very careful in how we're managing it. We're not exempt. Faculty, staff, and students have had to deal with it. But during the pandemic, I think by any reasonable measure, Greensboro College, given the resources we have, managed it as well as we possibly could have. And Shana was one of the absolute key people in making that happen.
Yeah, we were able to stay open when many of our peer institutions were not able to do so, and really stuck with the students and tried to give them that small college liberal arts experience, even though we were in the middle of a global pandemic.
I think another indicator why things are definitely better this fall is that it's relatively rare that I get a text or a call from Shana over the weekend.
I don't have to call him as much. Yes.
These past few years have been a lot with the pandemic and just in general. And then this semester is going off really well, but still, it's still a lot of work.
Sure.
So I guess what keeps you inclined to remain in the field? And if someone's interested in student development, what would be some advice you would give?
Yeah. So I have always been attracted to particularly young adults, and I think it's a wonderful time in your life, particularly if we think about our traditional age students. This is probably the only point in your life that you are going to live with, work with, be surrounded by people who have a similar goal, which is earning an education. And we all have different backgrounds and different interests, but we share that common goal. And so I think that's motivating. I think young people especially are full of optimism and hope and sort of what are the possibilities. And that's what I really love about working with college students. So most people that go into student development never knew it was a profession until they went to college. They had no idea. And, I was certainly that way. I was a journalism major in college, and I had a transformative orientation experience. And somebody said, you can do this for a living. So most people that go into higher education will pursue a master's degree in education or counseling or student development or higher education theory. There are a number of wonderful programs in the area as well as out of state. And so most folks will do that. There are lots of practical experiences that go along with that education. We're fortunate here at Greensboro to have a lot of alums. And so we have hired a number of young alums recently, some who've gone off to other institutions and gotten their degree and come back to the place that they call home to be with us.
It's very timely with homecoming this weekend, too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I do have one last question, Shana. I remember last semester doing the gift for GC and the dunk tank. Do you want to talk a little bit about your outfit a little bit?
Oh, sure. So super excited. I always try to make students forget how old I really am and find ways to engage with them. So I've have to add to it this year, but last year I had some nice GC green swim fins and a GC green swim cap, had a little playlist for that, and my favorite goggles with plastic eyelashes. So everyone's going to have to stay tuned for what I might add to my outfit this year for our splash chair.
Can't wait to see you next year.
Yes.
So thank you, Shana, for joining us today. And thank you again, Dr. Zotto, for being here. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.